Hey, what's up guys? This is Dustin with Rocky Mountain ATV MC, and today I'll be showing you how to install a wide ratio transmission kit on a YZ250 two-stroke. Okay, so today we're going to be swapping out the gears in our YZ250 to make them the same as the YZ250X. Now the YZ250X has a wider gear ratio than the YZ250. So gears 1 and 2 will be the same, but gears 3, 4, and 5 are going to have a taller ratio to them. So it's going to make it great for off-road racing and desert applications. Now, obviously we've already got our case split and our transmission removed. So if you need help with doing this, you can refer to our video online, which will walk you through a step-by-step process on how to tear down the engine, split the cases, and pull out your transmission. So if this is something you want to do to your YZ250, you can find the kit online on our website, which will include all the OEM gears and necessary parts to make this swap. All right, so let's get started. So to remove the gears from the transmission, the only tool that we're really going to need at this point is our snap ring pliers. So once you get your engine tore down, you can put all those tools away. So for this, we'll just need our snap ring pliers. Also, you're going to want to grab some molybdenum disulfide grease. So we've got this here. It's from Yamaha, made by the manufacturer. And also, of course, always refer to your service manual for your engine specific needs. Okay, so now we're going to move on with disassembly of our transmission. So we're going to start with our main shaft. Now, the first gear is going to be the fixed gear on the shaft, the one that you cannot remove. Next, largest one is our second gear. Third largest is our third gear. Fourth largest, fourth, and then of course our fifth gear. So when you remove these from the shaft, you want to make sure that you lay them out in order in which that they were removed. So that way, when it comes time to install it, we're going to know the orientation of all of our gears. So we'll take our snap ring pliers, go ahead and insert them into our snap ring. Get this removed. Remove our second gear. I like to lay them face down, so to speak, so that when it comes time to go back together, I can just take and put it back on, right? Okay. Next gear. Then we've got a washer, another snap ring, next gear, another snap ring. Sometimes they can be a little difficult to remove, so just make sure to be patient. Don't worry about saving the snap rings because you're going to have all new ones. So if you destroy it when it comes off or it bends a little too much, that's okay. Okay, and that is our main shaft. Now we can move on to our counter shaft. Now the gears on this shaft, all of them can be removed. So if you're trying to decide which one's first gear, second, third, fourth, and fifth, you're going to have to reference your main shaft. So how we know our first gear is our first gear is on the main shaft. It's fixed. It's built into the shaft. You can't remove it. So the next gear on our counter shaft that will coincide with our first gear is this one here. So this is going to be our first gear. We'll go ahead and get this removed. Next is going to be, let's see, so we got first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Next one will be our fifth. And then to remove third gear, we're going to need to use our snap ring pliers. Again, they can be a little difficult to remove. If you bend them or stretch them on the removal process, don't be too upset because we've got new ones in the kit. Okay, this is the next gear. Go ahead and pull this off. Fourth gear. Go ahead and pull that one off. And then second gear, we can go ahead and leave on the counter shaft because we won't be removing this gear. Okay, so that's how you should disassemble your transmission shafts. Now, as you can see here, we have our assembly completely laid out in the correct order. Now, if you're missing any washers, check each side of the gears as sometimes they will stick to one side or the other. You can also refer to the attached OEM diagram for the correct order of parts. So what we'll do next is we're going to take our new gears and we're going to replace where they sit here in the assembly line. So that way when it comes time to put it all back together, we know the orientation of how the gears are going to get put back on the shaft. So in the transmission kit, we will include the diagram which will indicate the positions of the gears, so at least identifying which gears you're going to be replacing. Now, on this sheet, it will have the part numbers that coincide with which number of gear you're going to be replacing. So what we have gone ahead and done is on each one of our part numbers, we've labeled on the bag which gear and which shaft it goes to. So to get started with this, we're going to go ahead and get our snap rings replaced. So we've got them laid out in order here. We'll go ahead and pull those out of the packages, swap out our old snap rings, and then we're going to move on with the gears. So all the snap rings are the same part number, so I'm just going to set those there. So I'll set all of my new snap rings, and I'll make note, obviously, which one's the old ones, which ones are the new ones. So I've got the new ones in place. I'm going to go ahead and remove my old snap rings. I'm going to set those aside. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to the gears. So we've got gears 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4, and 5. So I'll start with our main shaft. This is our 4th gear. And again, note the orientation of the gears. So obviously on this one we've got our dogs face up. On this gear we'll have our dogs faced up. Also with 4th gear, it's going to come with a new collar. Move on to 3rd gear. 3rd gear is the same orientation. Then we can move on to our 5th gear. And we'll set that the same as the others. Okay, now to move on to the counter shaft. We've got our 4th gear here. Looks the same. Cool. Move on to our 3rd. Looks like it's going to go that side up. Then we'll move on to our 5th gear, which it looks like it's going to be facing this way. Okay, now we can go ahead and pull the old gears that we're not going to be reusing. Let's go ahead and set these aside. Again, if you have to double check the gears to make sure that you have the right sides facing up, so that way when we put them onto our shaft, everything's going to go back on in the same order and in the right direction. Cool. Go ahead and pull that off. Okay, so now we can move on to our assembly. Now, each transmission is going to be different from bike to bike as far as its wear is concerned. So it's going to be up to you to inspect your transmission properly and refer to your service manual for those procedures. Okay, so let's get started. First, we're going to grab our molybdenum disulfide grease. This is a high shear stability grease. So on startup, when we get our bike going, we're not going to fry our gears. So we're going to go ahead and get this applied. So I'll just take a little bit of our molybdenum disulfide grease here. I'm going to place it on my finger. I'm going to take my 5th gear. I'm going to go ahead and coat the inner circumference. All right, so now we can take our 5th gear. We're going to slide it onto our shaft. Just like that. Okay, so we've got that taken care of. Now we can go ahead and slide on our washer. Like so. Kind of press it on there. And then we're going to take our snap ring and install it. Now on the snap ring, it's going to have kind of a sharper edge. Kind of feel it with your finger like so. And you want to take and install the snap ring with the sharp edge facing away from the washer that it will be sitting against. So in order to do this, I'm going to turn this around real quick. I'm going to grab my snap ring pliers. Now this process may be a little difficult. Sometimes the snap rings like to not open uniformly when you're trying to install them. So just try to be as cautious with them as possible. Get them past the first couple landings. Okay, so once we get it close, you can go ahead and push it in to place, and you'll hear it snap once it's locked into its groove. All right, so now we've got our 5th gear installed. We can move on to our 3rd gear. Now, same process with 3rd gear. Take a little bit of your molybdenum disulfide grease. We're gonna go ahead and coat the inside of the pinion here, inner circumference of the gear. Okay, so now we've got that nice and lubed up. We can go ahead and slide this onto our main shaft. All right, so now we've got our 3rd gear installed. We can move on to getting ready for our 4th gear. Now, we'll be applying our snap ring first. Okay, find that sharp edge. So in this case, snap ring's gonna be seated here, and then we're gonna have our washer that will seat against it, okay? So then we'll find our sharp edge, and we'll face that away, like so. Now we can slide it onto the shaft again. Just kind of help it along with your fingers. Sometimes, depending on the quality of snap ring pliers you get, it may want to bend the snap ring in a direction that's not the way you want it to go. All right, so now we got that installed. I'm gonna flip my shaft around so that I know the orientation. I'm gonna take the washer. I'm gonna slide this into place, just like so. Again, with our molybdenum disulfide grease. Now, before we install this onto the shaft, we've got our collar that's gonna come with our 4th gear. So go ahead, lube up the collar on the outer diameter, and then as well as the inner diameter too. I'm gonna take my collar, I'm gonna slide it into place on our gear. Just gonna kind of spin it a few times, make sure all that grease gets nice and distributed. So now that we've got that, we can go ahead and slide this onto our shaft. Just like so. All right. Lastly, we have got our 2nd gear. Again, moly lube. I'll go ahead and throw this on the inner diameter of our gear, set it on the shaft. Okay, and lastly, for our main shaft, our snap ring. And again, make sure the sharp edge is facing away from the washer or the gear. We've got our sharp edge there. I'm gonna turn that this way, double check, okay. All right, now we can get this installed onto the shaft. Okay, just like so. Make sure it snaps into place. Give it a good inspection. Make sure it's nice and seated. Awesome. Okay, that's how we're gonna assemble the gears on our main shaft. Now we can go ahead and move on to the counter shaft, or our output shaft. All right, so our 2nd gear is gonna stay on here. We won't be removing this. So again, same process. We'll take our moly, place it onto our fingertip. We're gonna go ahead and lube the inner circumference. Then we're gonna put it on the shaft. Washer. Third gear. Washer. Snap ring. Next gear, apply lube. Set it on the shaft. Lastly, first gear. Get it nice and lubed. And set it on the shaft. And that's it. That's how we install the wide ratio transmission kit on our transmission. Now, this is an involved process, so you might need to watch the video a few times to make sure that you get everything right. Now, if you're going to need help with the rest of your engine rebuild, be sure to check out our bottom end rebuild video. And go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more how-to videos. And that's it for me, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and keep turning those wrenches.